Well, good afternoon and welcome back. Here we are again. Just this morning, I had a news conference marking the 12th anniversary of Bill 28 and its legacy for BC's education system. And then an hour later, the court's decision was released. First, this is an important and historic day. BC teachers have fought long and hard against government laws that we knew in our hearts were wrong. When this government stripped our collective agreement, it was an attack on our charter rights, and it allowed the government to cut BC's education system. Larger classes, less support for children with special needs, and fewer resources for all BC students. Today, for the second time, the court has said to government, you cannot just rip up collective agreements. You cannot violate people's rights. So yes, it is a victory. It's a victory for teachers, but also for working people across British Columbia and Canada, and for democracy. Government needs to know that collective bargaining is a constitutional right. Employers need to come to the bargaining table and negotiate in good faith. They need to know that their own political agenda does not supersede the rights that we all have as Canadians. Today's ruling is also a victory for public education in British Columbia. As part of her ruling, Madam Justice Griffin restored our contract language from 2002. That means smaller classes, more support for all BC kids, and extra help from specialist teachers. This morning, I spoke about how a generation of BC students have been shortchanged by this government's unconstitutional legislation. That statement remains true. Children who were in kindergarten in 2002 are now in grade 12. These kids have gone to school in larger classes, and they've had less access to specialists like learning assistance teachers, teacher counselors, teacher librarians, special education resource teachers. They've been in overly complex classes, and they've received less one-on-one time with teachers than children who graduated prior to 2002. Their entire education, 12 full years, has been in an era of cutbacks, reduced services, and underfunding. With this court victory, I hope that changes for all of the students coming through the system now, and for our members. Now we expect that government will do everything necessary to demonstrate respect for the court's ruling and make the situation right. Restore our smaller classes, rehire our specialist colleagues, and help us rebuild the excellent public education system that all British Columbians expect for their children. Thank you.
Now this has happened. You've won this before, and the government just ignored it. Do you not expect they may do the same thing?
Well, twice now we've been into court. Twice the government has violated the Constitution, our charter rights, the people's charter rights. And we're hoping now that government will respect the court decision.
How does this change the conversation at the bargaining table? You're going to be meeting them in February. What changes?
Well, what changes now is that there will be a base level in our collective agreements, in class size, specialist levels, and class composition that we will be working from to improve. So that will be one of the changes. And I think the other change for the collective bargaining table is the fact that we now know what the decision is. And I think that actually helps both sides, knowing what the decision is.
Now you, over time, lost those qualities, class size, composition, special needs students. Do you have to negotiate back those environments that you had before this all started?
I believe that Justice Griffin's decision is clear that the language that was illegally stripped from our collective agreement has to be restored. And so that's what our expectation is that the language will be restored into our collective agreements.
Could that mean that the government would be compelled to hire a lot more teachers to make up for what's been lost?
Government is part of the decision. We're hoping that absolutely there will be a return of classroom teachers in front of students and the return of specialist teachers who will now be available to work more on one-on-one with our students.
I'd like to know what you think. In her ruling, she made a point of saying that the court concluded the government had not bargained in good faith, and that in fact the government representatives were working a different strategy. The strategy being provoke you guys enough that you'll go out on strike, then they can gain political support by hitting you over the head and pushing you back to work. What do you make of her conclusion on that point?
Well, we think that conclusion is a great conclusion to come to. You know, when we were in bargaining in the last round, we sensed that there was something just not right, the fact that we kept going back to the bargaining table and trying to bargain in good faith. You know, we thought that there may be legislation in the offing, but we were still at the table. And I think what we thought we were sensing, I think we were vindicated now because it was actually happening. And for her to also conclude that, I think it's, well, you know, it's good news, but it's a sad state of affairs when in a free democracy and we're at the bargaining table and both parties are supposed to come to that bargaining table and bargain in good faith, and it was obvious that this government was not doing that in the last round of bargaining. We encourage government to come to the bargaining table in this round of bargaining and bargain in good faith and, you know, bring the necessary resources to the table so we can get a fair and reasonable deal with government, a deal that our members feel are fair and which also continues to improve the supports for our students and the ability for us to give more one-on-one time to them.
The $2 million, is that to cover legal costs, or would you expect that to go towards?
Well, I think the ruling talked about $2 million in remedy plus court costs, and so, you know, that's a decision we'll talk about later. But I think what's critical here and what was fundamental for us was to get our conditions of work restored into our collective agreements, our working conditions, which we know are our students' learning conditions, and that's what we went to court all about. And I think, like I said earlier, we've been vindicated, and let's hope the government doesn't violate our charter rights again.
What does this say about Premier Christy Clark and her family's first ideology?
Well, let's actually put families first by respecting the court ruling, put the conditions back into our collective agreement, put the conditions back into our schools so teachers have the tools, that we have the lower class sizes, we have the necessary specialist teachers to work one-on-one with our students so we can meet the needs of all of our students. And I think that's what British Columbians expect, and that's what we're hoping that Christy Clark will do and respect in terms of this decision.
Could you quantify how many specialist staff will be brought back in this business?
We know that there was approximately about 1,200 specialist teachers who that was the effect of the cuts previously. I can't comment on what the change will be at this particular time.
What do you make of the timing of the decision?
You know, it's you know, I was here this morning about the 12th anniversary, which is tomorrow, and it's great. Yeah, I can't comment on the timing, but it is great timing for all of us, and you know, it's great that the decision actually came in sooner rather than later, and it's like I said, it's good for us, it's good for British Columbians, it's good for public education, it's good for our students.
Could they appeal this, you think?
You know, government probably has an opportunity to appeal it if they choose to, and I'm encouraging them to respect the decision and let's move forward. Let's have the stability and funding that we need. Let's have the stability in terms of lower class sizes and more support for our students with special needs, more support for all our students. Okay, great, thank you.